à tous. On m'a demandé de faire l'introduction parce que il paraît que je parle français, donc ça, ce sera un petit peu plus sympa pour tout le monde pour la session qu'on fait en Suisse romande. Voilà, merci beaucoup de participer à ce webinaire. Merci beaucoup à Bol pour l'organisation. Merci beaucoup à mon collègue Christian Kurta qui va pouvoir se présenter dans une minute et qui vous présentera toute la partie SD-WAN. Je pense que la plupart d'entre vous connaissent déjà Peter et Rolf, qui sont nos deux hosts habituels tous les quarters ou 2 fois par quarter, en fait, je devrais dire, pour tous les tech webinaires, les morning sessions avec Bol. Juste une petite vue rapide sur l'agenda. Welcome. Alors, c'est ce qu'on est en train de faire encore une fois. Bienvenue à tous. La première partie, le premier gros bloc, ce sera pour vraiment parler de SD-WAN sur PAN-OS, puisque vous savez qu'on a 2 offres quand on parle vraiment de SD-WAN, avec d'une part CloudGenix et la société qu'on avait rachetée il y a 1 an et demi maintenant, et qu'on a également une offre SD-WAN sur PAN-OS. C'est celle-là que Christian va nous montrer un petit peu plus en détail avec une live démo. Et puis, Rolf et Peter continueront par toute la partie VM Flex Licensing. Si vous avez déjà suivi, vous savez qu'aussi on a changé, on a même changé déjà 2 fois le modèle de licence pour tout ce qui est VM Series et CN Series. Donc, ça marche avec des crédits. Et vous allez avoir un update par rapport à ça. Et puis, toute la partie compliance au niveau des certifs. Vous savez qu'on a régulièrement des promotions, des incentives pour vous, pour les partenaires dont vous pouvez profiter avec l'aide de nos distris. Voilà. Il y a écrit question and answers à la fin. Mais n'hésitez pas, si vous avez envie de poser des questions, surtout sur les 2 premières parties pour le SD-WAN, pour les crédits flex, utilisez l'outil Q&A là que vous voyez dans Zoom. Et l'idée, c'est de rendre ça le plus interactif possible. Donc, n'hésitez pas à poser toutes les questions que vous voulez. Voilà. Je vois juste de voir que Daniel s'est rajouté aussi dans la session. Salut Daniel.
Salut Nico. Merci d'avoir pris le relais française. Bonjour aussi de ma part.
Je fais l'intro et je te laisse volontiers la parole avant de commencer avec Christian.
Non, pour moi, c'était bon. J'ai suivi tout ce que tu as dit. Je remercie tout le monde de la participation et je donne la parole aussi à
Christian.
Bonjour. Au team de Wittingen. Merci.
Okay. Bonjour. Hello. My name is Christian. I'm from Palo Alto Networks, and today I want to show you a little bit more about SD-WAN. Sorry, I'm not French speaking, so I'm from Austria, and we will cover today the topic SD-WAN, and I'm happy to have you together and to present you this topic. So let me please do a short introduction about SD-WAN. So I will not going to go into a PowerPoint war. So it's just some slides, and afterwards we will go to the live demo where I want to show you the value and how to set it up, how to operate it, and how to manage SD-WAN on PAN-OS. So perhaps some of you already tried it out. PAN-OS SD-WAN is a subscription on the next-gen firewalls in PAN-OS. And you have to keep in mind that we have actually 2 SD-WAN products. So we have Prisma Access and Prisma SD-WAN, which are in the Prisma focus, which means cloud focused. And then we have PAN-OS SD-WAN. And those topics are really completely different. So PAN-OS SD-WAN is on the firewall, so it's on PAN-OS. So it's managed locally through Panorama with a Panorama plugin. In the opposite, Prisma SD-WAN is a cloud managed solution, and the main differences are that in PAN-OS SD-WAN it is for a more security focused stuff. That means if you have a branch office where you want network segmentation, where you want layer 7 best of breed security, local internet breakout, and Office 365 connectivity, then I think Panorama SD-WAN is the way to go. In the opposite direction, if you have branch offices like in the retail market, where you have thousands of small branch offices which don't really have the focus on network segmentation in the branch, but only for connectivity purpose, then Prisma SD-WAN is the way to go. Both of these solutions that we have in place are able to communicate over Prisma Access. So Prisma Access is our cloud SASE solution, which means that you can connect your branch offices and your users not only over your existing MPLS internet lines, but you can also leverage the cloud for connectivity. And both of our solution, Panorama SD-WAN and Prisma SD-WAN, can use that. So you are not in a vendor lock, and it is that you are not, how would I say, if you put everything on one horse, yeah, then it's no problem, because you can also bet on 2 horses. So the 2 solutions can be connected over Prisma Access. Well, if you have any questions about our topics today, I would please ask you if you could fill them out in the questions and answers sheet. We will go through them, and because today we are quite a familiar small round of people, so it's really okay to ask questions. Please not in French, I'm not so good in it, so better just write them in the Q&A forum. Well,
Nico will translate them for sure.
I'm sure, yeah. I'm sure. So what is driving us, and what is driving SD-WAN topic? So the cloud adoption is one of the main topics why people go to SD-WAN solutions. So to leverage the cloud, to use the cloud as transport, and also to have the possibility to use more than one internet provider, and combine MPLS and the internet for quality and for bulk traffic. And of course, to overcome bandwidth demands. So more and more solutions are placed in the cloud. So you also need to have a redundant connection to the cloud without any losses or packet losses. So what are the challenges with those solutions? So legacy SD-WAN solutions are built on security. That means that the typical pure play SD-WAN solutions, as you know them perhaps on the market, they have degraded security, and they are not best of breed in the term of security. For example, one of our main competitors has on the firewall, which he produces, about 2,000 applications in the application database, but on the SD-WAN solution that he provides, he only has about 120 applications, because it was bought additionally to the portfolio. It was not integrated, and after 3 years on the market, it is still not integrated. So they just changed the logo, just changed the brand, and therefore this solution is not best of breed security. Even if they sell you firewalls, which are good on an application database, but on the SD-WAN market, they are not. The second thing is that, if you have more policies, if you have a global backbone behind it, you often have poor performance, and more often you have a lot of complexity. That means if you have one box for SD-WAN, one box for firewalling, then you have a packet optimizer, you perhaps need to have something which is covering IoT, or you need to have something like a sandbox, then the complexity grows more and more. And our founder, Nir Suk, he always praises it that he wants to kick out the proxies or kick out the WAN accelerators and so. And I think it's the right approach. In many branch offices, you really should focus on one solution. And the one solution could be SD-WAN, security, proxy, CTNA, IoT in one place. And that's why we built PanOS SD-WAN in our PanOS and integrated with that. So a quick overview. Our PanOS SD-WAN is centrally managed via the Panorama, and in comparison, our Prisma Access solution is managed over the cloud and over the Panorama, and our Prisma SD-WAN solution is only managed over the cloud. So therefore, it is here possible to manage everything on-premise on the Panorama. You don't really need the cloud for that, and but you can connect it with Prisma Access to have a more reliable way to communicate to the internet. And what's now really great is that we can leverage our firewalls here and make SD-WAN on the firewalls itself. That means that if you have 1, 2, or 3 internet providers, you can build those tunnels over these transports. If you have MPLS, you can use it unencrypted, you can use it encrypted, you can shift default routes. So it is really, it really has everything what a full-featured SD-WAN solution needs. So there are really hardly any differences between Prisma SD-WAN and PanOS SD-WAN. So that means that we have integrated our best-in-class security across all locations, but we also have the best connectivity for that. That means an SD-WAN solution is just as good as the application database it uses, because we are relying on applications to shift the traffic over the transport. For example, if you want to use Office 365 or Microsoft Teams and you want to put that transport over an internet link instead of an MPLS link, then of course you also need to detect this application, and the detection has to be reliable. And I think what the Swiss people always like to say, who has invented it? Yeah, we were one of the first that invented the application database, and we are quite good at application detection, and therefore also we can use this as starting point for the SD-WAN and for the connectivity. So this means that we can optimize the performance for all applications. That means we can use split tunneling to use the cloud and also to steer the traffic between the locations. Also flexible DAY failover, that means direct internet access over VPN tunnels is possible over one or more hubs. Which is a really great thing. If you, for example, have a connection between Austria, New Zealand, and Australia, then you can also use local internet breakout. If the local internet breakout fails, you can shift the transport and you can shift the internet breakout to Australia. So like in the current example in Tonga, in the Caribbean Sea, where the volcano exploded, if you still have one internet connection left, then you also can shift the traffic to this automatically without impacting the user, without changing something on the network. So something like self-healing. What really stands out is that we have end-to-end application service level agreements. That means that you can have you can measure the time to live, or you can measure the response of an application like Microsoft Teams, or like your custom web server, or a SharePoint online server, or your internal SharePoint server. And you can also use this as consideration for your traffic and for your routing. This is really a great thing, and I think that some of our main competitors really don't have that integrated. So you can really do your own measurements. You can really add your own service level agreements based on your applications in the network, and you can put that into perspective and into the dynamic routing. So how is the onboarding for Prisma Access? So you can also use Prisma Access to the connectivity. That means you can have it central managed. You can also do your NOC and SOC operations from the same interface. So you don't have 1 or 2 or 3 interfaces to manage your solution that you would have for SD-WAN. You would have one for the security, and you have one for automation. But in this case, you can use this all over the Panorama. So the guys can do troubleshooting over the Panorama. You can configure your policies over the Panorama, and you can do the monitoring and reporting over the Panorama. So there is not a 3 or 4 tier graphical user interface to interagate with this solution. It's just simplified into one solution. And this really stands out also from our competition, because if our competition, if you have a look at them, then you will see that most of them have a cloud managed interface for SD-WAN and a local interface for the firewall part. And in our case, it's everything in one management, and you can use the same policies on your local firewall, on SD-WAN, and also on Prisma Access. So also for mobile users or for branch connectivity over the cloud, it's the same graphical user interface and the same management. What's also great is that we can use zero-touch provisioning to bring out the branch offices. So to directly send the firewall to the branch office, and the employee without IT know-how can connect it to the network, and then the configuration is pushed over the Panorama. This solution is already a long in place. So we have this since PanOS 9.1. It is available for the PanOS 220 series, 800 series, and 400, and so on. But you have to keep in mind that if you want zero-touch provisioning, you have to order the firewall also with zero-touch provisioning. So if you have locations which are really remote, like Brazil or China, then it is best to order these firewalls with zero-touch provisioning. But also keep in mind, if you order them with zero-touch provisioning, the deployment process looks a little bit different than before, because if you want to stage it at home and ship it overseas with the customs, then I think a non-zero-touch deployment box is easier to handle than with zero-touch deployment. Because with zero-touch deployment, the whole process has already to be in place. So you have to have the Panorama integration with zero-touch deployment, and you have to be trained about that. Great. Yeah, as I said, we can have a single management for the firewall rules and for the SD-WAN rules. And let's phase into the deployment architecture. So how would you do a global internet connect for a hybrid connectivity? So what do you need for PAN-OS SD-WAN? Of course, you need the Panorama. So it's not possible to use SD-WAN without the Panorama. And you need boxes with PAN-OS SD-WAN on-premise in the branch office. What also needs to be in place is you need to have the PAN-OS SD-WAN subscription on the firewalls, not on the Panorama. So no PAN-OS SD-WAN subscription on the Panorama necessary, just the plugin. But on the firewalls, of course, you need the subscription for SD-WAN. One thing to note, if you're planning the rollout and about 70% of your branch offices only have MPLS connectivity and no other internet provider, or only have internet and no MPLS, then of course you can wait with the licensing of the firewall until you have two providers. So MPLS or one internet provider with SD-WAN, it hardly makes sense. So if you have just one MPLS connectivity line, you don't really need SD-WAN. You can stick with MPLS. But if you have more than one internet connectivity, then of course you should go on top with PAN-OS SD-WAN. What's really great also is you can do that later on. So you can right now start with PAN-OS. If you want SD-WAN, you can just put it on there afterwards. I would also have to say is that it is a little more complicated to migrate from PAN-OS to PAN-OS with SD-WAN, because you have to change the internet interfaces to a different type. What's also possible is a mesh approach. So if you have, you now have the limitation that you can only do about 4 hubs. And if you need more than 4 hubs, then you can also go for a mesh. So every box connects to every box over all transports. Most of the customers right now use the hub and spoke approach, which means that you have 2 hubs which are serving the central services, and all branch offices build VPN tunnels to these hubs over separate transports. So if the hub has 2 internet lines, and if the branch has 2 internet lines, you have 4 tunnels on each branch office. Keep in mind that if you want to connect these hubs together, and these are not on the same location, you have to manually add VPN tunnels between them. But what's really great is that even if you do manual stuff and manual configuration, you can do that. Yeah. So PAN-OS SD-WAN is just deploying configuration on your Panorama, but you can also add configuration yourself and do add-ons. So for example, when Panorama configures a VPN tunnel between 2 locations and you want to have that different, you can do this. So you are really flexible. You can really change the configuration of everything which is also regarded as SD-WAN. This is really something which really stands out from the competition, because in most SD-WAN solutions on the market, you have a connectivity which is proprietary, which means some of these vendors use proprietary VPN technology, or routing techniques to build their SD-WAN. In our case, we already had everything in place. We had application firewalling, we had SSL decryption, we had a really good routing engine. Yeah, as you know, our founder once worked at NetScreen, which was acquired by Juniper. So Juniper knows how to do routing, and so our PanOS also knows how to do routing. So therefore, the only changes that were necessary in PanOS have been everything which was SLA related. That means service level agreements, monitoring, jitter, packet loss, and this was the add-on which we did. But if you want to connect it to your real world, like Azure VPN Gateway, Azure vWAN, or AWS or Express routes, which are routed over BGP, you can do this. And what's really great, you can also connect it with SD-WAN in the same routing process. So when I'm going back one step, so what is the unique selling proposition of our solution? That we are not proprietary, we are completely open. You can do all things that you can do with your firewalls, and you have the possibility to connect it over the cloud with Prisma Access in one interface. So what's also new in our solution? So one of the latest features that we brought is the interconnect with Prisma Access hubs. So you can now connect also to Prisma Access and to use Prisma Access also as an SD-WAN endpoint. And you can do a more granularly intelligent policies and route to Prisma Access, which is really also a really great benefit of our solution. So I right now want to dive into our solution itself. And want to show you how to build a Palo Alto SD-WAN and what are the components for that. So right now you really need the Panorama, you need the Panorama plugin, and you need a firewall with PanOS SD-WAN, and you need one or more internet providers. So let's hook on the Panorama. I'm right now connected to my Panorama and I'm logging in. You can use PanOS SD-WAN already from PanOS 9.1 on. So you can use PanOS SD-WAN from PanOS 9.1. There it was introduced. You can mix also the configuration. That means you can use PanOS on 10.1 or 10.0 on our Panorama, and you can still have 9.1 devices in place. You have some limitations, but most of the limitations are on the Panorama. So let's start. What do you need? You need a Panorama, and also you need logging space. So every Panorama branch, every PanOS branch needs to log the traffic to the Panorama in order that the Panorama can control the traffic. So logging is necessary, and you also need a lot of space for logging. So you have to start with 2 terabytes and you can grow in 2 terabytes steps. But if you have about 100 or 200 branch offices, mostly 2 terabytes is enough. If these branch offices are not too huge. So if you go on the Panorama to plugins, you can download one of our plugins. So you have the possibility to go with the latest plugin, which is 2.2.0, which has improved features about Prisma SD, Prisma Access. But most of our customers right now use the SD-WAN plugin 2.0.3. It's the recommended release, and it's pretty stable, works also on older firewalls, and works quite well. You just have to install it, and then you have it running. So what else is necessary? You need to prepare your firewalls. And what we done here is we have a solution which is called Panhandler. And Panhandler can help you with the onboarding steps. So here you see the steps which are necessary to go from zero to hero. So in the Panhandler, you see the steps which you need to implement your SD-WAN solution. So first of all, you need to have the PanOS running. Then you have to onboard individual devices for licensing and staging. So you need to add your device to the Panorama. Then you have to prepare the shared configuration elements. That means this is a step-by-step walkthrough through the templates and the SD-WAN VPN address pools and everything else. So this is the step 1. Then you have to add at least 2 SD-WAN sites. So you need to add a template stack, a device group for the new hub or branch site. You have to add the interfaces, and you do have to create a topology. After you have created the new box and you have to edit the new site, you have to add an SD-WAN interface into the new template. So in the past, we had interface types layer 2, virtual wire, layer 3. And right now we have added an interface type which is called SD-WAN, which is something like a virtual interface, which you configure when you're doing SD-WAN. So in the SD-WAN approach, the traffic is not routed over the typical layer 3 interface, but the default route is facing towards the SD-WAN interface. And the SD-WAN interface then has its separate policy in the Panorama, where you can steer the traffic between your transports. So it's something like the policy-based routing a rule set. It's a separate rule set in the Panorama where you can steer the traffic over the transports. And for this, the traffic needs to be sent to the SD-WAN interface, and therefore we need to add this SD-WAN interface to our new template. So if this step is complete, you also need to onboard the device into the topology map. That means you have to say which firewall connects to which firewall, to which hub, and this is also necessary. And last but not least, you have to add the device and associate it to the topology template. So how does this look in Panhandler? In Panhandler, it's really easy. You just have to press go. You fill out all your asked questions here. What should be the host name of the Panorama? What is the NTP server of the Panorama? If you have the Panorama already configured, you can cancel and you can go to the next step. So in the next step, you have to choose the device serial number and you have to enter the device serial numbers. Then these devices are added to the Panorama. In the next step, you have to add an SD-WAN reference template and you have to define the zones which you want to use in your security policy. And in the next step, you have to add the new SD-WAN site. You have to choose a template. You have to choose a template stack. You have to add a name for your new site, and you have to choose the device group and the name of the security policy. And if you want to have a virtual router for SD-WAN, you can give also a name, or you can stick with a default virtual router. And yeah, that's mostly it. So you just have to add the devices here.
That's cool stuff, Christian. I think that helps, you know, especially when you're new to SD-WAN. So you really have a jump start, let's say that.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is really a step-by-step guide how to implement SD-WAN in 8 steps. You just have to fill everything in. And with a panhandler, the configuration is then written to the Panorama. And on the Panorama, you can still check it and have a look at the configuration. And if you like what Panhandler did for you, then you can commit these changes to the network. So Panhandler is completely open source. You can download it from our live community website, and you have a lot of skillets and skillet collections. There are also skillets for Global Protect, for best practice collection, and so it is really nice to have a look at it. Just explore this. It's really for free. You can download it on our website, and it is really a value for our customers because you have something like a step-by-step procedure which configures this for you. If you have everything in place, then your configuration basically looks like this. So you have your devices here, and you have to decide what is a hub and what is a branch. So on this device, you just have to define a name, and you have to define the name of the zones. So what is the name of the internet zone? What is the zone which is connecting to the hub? What's the name of the zone which is connecting to the branch? And how is internal traffic handled? Then what we rely on is border gateway protocol for routing. So if you are afraid of dynamic routing on the firewall, you just can deactivate it. But I really have to say it is really nice because even if you have no clue about BGP, the plugin on the Panorama completely does everything for you. So you don't have to stick with BGP. You don't have to stick with dynamic routing. You just have to decide, this is a unique IP addresses in my network. This is a unique IP address on my network on this loopback IP. This is my branch office number, which is the autonomous system number, which has to be per branch office. And this is the network on the branch office. So you really have to just fill in these things, and everything else is configured for you. If you have a layer 3 router in your network, and you have more than this network on your branch office, you just have to fill out your networks on your branch office. If you are behind the NAT device, you can also say, okay, which interface is behind which IP? You at least need one static IP address on the hub. So if you want to do SD-WAN, your hub should at least have one static IP address to fulfill the requirements. So if you have added all your devices, so I have to change my screen here. then the list should look like this. And then you can define your VPN clusters. In the VPN clusters, it is like drag and drop. You just say which firewalls connect to which hub and with which priority. So you can add up to 4 hubs. These hubs can be firewalls or can be virtual firewalls in Microsoft Azure, AWS, or they can be Prisma Access hubs. So just fill in your branch offices here. If you have high availability, it automatically checks that for you and configures both boxes. And you really don't have to do anything else. So VPN encryption and VPN settings are configured by you, but you still can have changes and you can still change everything the plugin configured for you. So how does this look like? You have here your templates and the iron skillet with our panhandler that you saw here will add those templates for you with these reference templates. And these templates are here deployed for you, and you can put them into your template stacks. So you are doing one template stack for your hub or for your hubs, and you have one stack for your branch offices where you have the branch template and everything else in place. We are working here also with variables. So on the branch templates, let me have a look at the hub template. Yeah, our plugin also puts here variables on the interfaces, and you can change these variables on the template variables side, which is really great because then you can have one template for all your branch offices. So it is really a fast start how to deploy SD-WAN. You just have to add the templates to your template stack, and you just have to define the variables of your IP addresses.
Christian, I do have a question.
Yeah.
What about interface types? I mean, would it make sense to always use the same connectivity on the same interfaces? Let's say you have a broadband connection, cable-based, and then maybe you have an 3G, 4G uplink that you want to use. Does it matter where I physically connect it? I mean, you said, okay, I want to use a template stack. I would expect that you need some sort of, let's say, schema. Always use, let's say the broadband connection on Ethernet 01, and maybe the next Wi-Fi or 3G, 4G uplink on Ethernet 2, and so on. Is that important? Is that something that we should take care as well? Or does the template stack handle it for me?
So it is best to build a template and to have so as you already said, preparation is really key on Panorama SD-WAN. So if you are well prepared and your branch offices look the same, then you will have a lot of work less. Yeah. So if you have branch offices who all look different, so on branch office 1, you have Ethernet 1.1 ISP, and on branch office 2, you have MPLS on Ethernet 1.1, then this can be a pain, but this can be a pain with every SD-WAN solution on the market. So preparation is really key on Panorama SD-WAN and on every SD-WAN solution. So it is best that all branch offices look the same. So what I want to share with you is something which I have from an operating manual of my customer. So here we define on which box, which interface is which provider. So Office LAN is always Ethernet 1.1, MPLS is always Ethernet 1.2, ISP is always Ethernet 1.3, ISP2 is optional, is always Ethernet 1.4, and sorry,
we don't see your screen, right? Yeah.
Okay. So this is the template which I want to show you here. So this is an operating manual of a working SD-WAN customer, and here you see that we have defined every interface on every firewall exactly the same. So if you, for example, have no ISP2, you have no second internet provider, you just have MPLS and ISP1, then this interface would be blank and you are not allowed to connect something on that. So it is hard because of course you lose valuable Ethernet ports on your firewalls, but preparation is key. So if you have a well-prepared structure and all branch offices look the same, then you really have a really smart life in the future. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
makes sense. Yeah.
What we've done here is we added also one interface for legacy or other network, and we made a .1q trunk on the Ethernet 1.6, and these look really completely the same on all firewalls. So also on the larger firewalls, you still have the same connectivity. So the ports from a SD-WAN perspective should be on the same interfaces. This really makes your life really easier because then you can have the branch template for all of your firewalls, and you see here in the branch template. So I'm open the hub template. So you can just say enable SD-WAN, and you can have your configuration in one template. So I'm right now here in the interface configuration. So in the interface configuration, as I told you before, there is on the layer 3 interface and also on the aggregate Ethernet interface or on a VLAN interface, you can now enable SD-WAN. And if you enable SD-WAN, then you can say the IP address via the variable, the gateway via the variable, and that's it. So this template can be applied to all firewalls. In my case, everything on the Ethernet 1.1 is internet. So this is a variable which comes from the template, and you don't need to change anything on the virtual router. So in the past, if you configured a layer 3 interface, you configured an IP and a subnet mask, then you went into the virtual router and configured the default route. In SD-WAN, it's a little bit different. You just configure the IP and the next hop gateway. And on the SD-WAN side, you have to define an Ethernet profile. And an Ethernet profile is how the connectivity works here. Ethernet profile can be something like a bandwidth limit. That means, for example, it's a 100 megabit link, and upload I have 25 megabit, and it is a cable modem. Yeah. What's also important is to define a link tag here, and a link tag here can be something like a name from the ISP, but I would really suggest not to use the name of the ISP, but to work here with quality 0, quality 1, bulk 0, bulk 1. Perhaps some of you know the Barracuda firewall, which is working like that. And if you also use these terms here, then you are good to go. So only link tags, which are from the same type, build a VPN tunnel together. So if you have an MPLS link tag, it will not build an internet tunnel to the internet link tag. So link tag MPLS will never talk to link tag internet. So therefore, it is better to not name it internet or MPLS, but just to go with the quality of the transport.
So if I understand that right, you use link tags to differentiate between technology. Like you mentioned, MPLS will only connect to MPLS connections, and maybe broadband cable connections match to broadband cable connections. So it's a way to differentiate.
I have to explain it a little bit better. MPLS is internal routing. So MPLS cannot talk to internet connected technology. So for example, if you have 3 providers, 2 of which are MPLS and 1 is internet, then you should define three link tags. MPLS 1, MPLS 2, and ISP 1, because MPLS 1 cannot talk in any case to MPLS 2. It's not possible because these are 2 different MPLS providers. Yeah. So if you have if you have a hub and a branch office, then MPLS 1 always must route its traffic to MPLS 1. MPLS 2 always must route the traffic to MPLS 2. And internet builds the tunnel to internet. But if you have 2 internet providers and only 1 MPLS providers, then you need 2 link tags. So 1 for MPLS to MPLS communication and 1 for all internet links to all other internet links.
I got it now. It makes sense now. Yeah. So yeah. It really is some sort of related. Is a relation between the interface type or link and the routing behind the scene. Huh?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
So what we are doing next is to define also the aggressiveness of this internet link and also a failover metric. And then you are good to go. And everything else is handled over the application and SD-WAN database. So here in our policies, we have our security policies, which allow our traffic. And in this security tab, we also have the SD-WAN policies. And on the SD-WAN policies, you define the routing of your traffic. For example, for Microsoft Teams, I add a rule from the source zone internal to the destination zone to hub with the application Microsoft Teams from our application database. And you define a path quality profile. The path quality profile is something to handle jitter and packet loss. So you have the latency values, which you can figure per application. And because MS Teams is internet conferencing, I used internet conferencing here. You can also do a quality profile where you can do the service level agreements. you can also check teams.microsoft.com in a 3-second interval. This is last mile SLA Teams. And this can be also used for monitoring this application. And you also have forward error correction, packet duplication, for example, for really important traffic like SAP or your ERP system, you can use packet duplication. So it is sending out the traffic on both interfaces, and the packet which arrives first is accepted, and the package which arrives latest is discarded. So, and last but not least, you have to say you need a traffic distribution profile, and the traffic distribution profile is the way the firewall should handle the traffic. So quality 0, then quality, then bulk 0 would mean that it is using a top-down priority, first the expensive path, then the general access path, and the low-cost path. So this would use the MPLS link first and then take the internet links. But you can also say, I want the best available path because it's a really important application. Or you can do a weighted session distribution. So 80% goes on the expensive path and 10% on this path. So you can use your internet lines and you can utilize them the best ways. So that's mainly it. So you just commit it to the Panorama and push it to the devices. And afterwards, you have this policy on your firewall. So let's have a look on the firewall, what the Panorama plugin has done right now for us. So on our firewall, we now have the configuration in place. Panorama has built the VPN tunnels for us. So if we have 2 transports on the edge side and 2 transports on the hub sides, we now have 4 VPN tunnels. And so it mainly based on IPsec. So Panorama built an IPsec tunnel for us. It built a virtual router, and this virtual router is configured with BGP. It has entered the autonomous system numbers for us, and we have the policy in place. So this is how it looked like. When I go to the network tab, I see that Panorama has deployed the interfaces for me. This is SD-WAN profile Ethernet. This is SD-WAN profile LTE. I have an SD-WAN interface, and I have an SD-WAN interface for every connection. So here, this interface goes zone to branch. It goes to firewall 03, and this interface goes to firewall 04. I'm right now on the hub. Therefore, I have one SD-WAN interface for each location, which is using, in my case, 2 transports, which means we have 4 VPN tunnels. And if I go to IPsec tunnels, I see that I have 8 IPsec tunnels on the hub. And I have 4 VPN tunnels to each location. And right now, only one of them per location works. The others are down. This is in my lab to simulate outages. You still can change things in the configuration. So on the Panorama, you are completely open to change things, to make tunnels between branch offices as you like, so everything is configurable. If you have a look at the virtual router, we see that we have a new virtual router in place. And if I click on runtime stats, then I also see that I have two BGP peers with established BGP connection, and I have a really nice routing table over BGP, everything configured automatically with no interaction necessary. So in the traffic monitor, I also have now the possibility to have a look at the SD-WAN and to do some troubleshooting. So let me look at the traffic here. If I have traffic over the SD-WAN link. So basically what you have here, you have a column for the Sd1 policy name, and you can steer into the traffic, and you see also which SD-WAN site was taken, which cluster, which link change count, why it flapped, and I have to look up a firewall where I can see a traffic here. So give me 1 minute. Let's see if we have an SD-WAN policy filled out here. No, not at the moment. I switch back to Panorama. So it is completely integrated in the Panorama for troubleshooting. You see which band with which line was used, which connection was established over which link, and why. So in the Panorama tab, you have right now a new monitoring tab here for SD-WAN monitoring, and you can also have a look at your link performance, and you can have a look at your sites and the performance of your sites. And if you click on an interface, you see that we had a link down in this interface. And if you click on this interface, we see right now that everything is running okay, no packet loss, no jitter, no warnings. And this can be brought down directly to the application. So you also see which applications were impacted and where you had your performance issues. We also can do reporting. So if you want to have a performance of application, or if you want to have an overview about your link performance of your providers, then you can pull a report, and you can then go to the provider and choose the best provider for your connectivity. So this was a really short overview about Panorama SD-WAN. So to summarize it, it is just a plugin for the Panorama, and it is using the functionality which you know from PanOS. So we are working with BGP, we are working with bidirectional forwarding, we are working with IPsec, so it's no vendor lock. You can connect it to Azure VPN Gateway, you can connect it to Prisma SD-WAN and everything else. It's just talking standard BGP, and you can really use the things that you have on PanOS. So you can build more than one virtual router. You have this completely integrated. So who is it for? So most of the customers who already have firewalls in place, or who want secure connectivity, rely on this solution. If you have just connectivity focus and not security, then you better stick with Prisma SD-WAN. If you want 5G and LTE modems and Wi-Fi, also you can use Prisma SD-WAN. If you have Ethernet links like layer 3 interfaces, it is best to go with Panorama SD-WAN because you can do network segmentation, you can do layer 7 application control, which is right now not in this topic handled with Prisma SD-WAN. So
thanks, Christian, for that summarization and also for the nice presentation and demo. I've quickly checked the Q&A section, but so far we have not received any questions. So I think that means you did it pretty well. So there were no questions. I mean, if so, later on, feel free to get in touch with us. We will check them if you have questions with either Christian or Nico then. Yeah, but feel free in the rest of the session to just use the F&A panel, the Zoom panel down below. Yeah, thank you, Christian, once again. We will continue now with our next topic. Next topic is flexible licensing with software-based next-generation firewalls. Let me share my presentation quickly. So, hopefully you can see the screen. Okay, then let's dive into that topic. I think many of you are aware that Palo Alto introduced last year, I think it was springtime, a new licensing model. It's called credit-based licensing for software firewalls that covers the VM series and the series and the CN series, so the containerized series, as well as Panorama. Why did Palo Alto do that? In the past, well, we had over 100 SKUs for different models, and you as a partner or as an end customer had to choose the right model that really fits your requirements. So basically, for example, you purchased a VM100 that was limited to 2 virtual CPUs and 6.5 gig of RAM. Then on top of that, you also had to make a decision which services you want to use. And those services were coming to you via bundles. So you could pick only support, or maybe a bundle 1 with just threat prevention, or then go with a bundle 2. That all was tied to a term, so that VM subscription was valid for either 1 year or 3 years and so on. But what if the customer requirements changed during, let's say, that 3-year period? It was quite cumbersome to really find a solution. Then mainly it was commercial based. So we tried to give the partner or the end user a credit for the existing subscription, and then he had to repurchase a new VM model. But with that flexible credit-based licensing model, the world changed. So let's have a look how it changed. But before we go into the activation process, deployment profiles, and transfer of credits, first things first, let's understand that Palo Alto last year also put all the existing VM subscriptions on an end of sales status. That means you still can do renewals for your existing VM installations, for your existing kit, but there are no, let's say, possibilities to purchase a new VM300 or maybe a new subscription. You would like to have IoT subscription or a DLP subscription on your existing installation. That's not possible anymore. So sooner or later, you will have discussions with your end customer how to move on from that perpetual or subscription-based license to a more flexible licensing model. Actually, there is a promo running. It's called the Supercharge Your Business promotion, and Peter will cover that later in the session. Also interesting to know is that the customer benefits or can benefit from a volume discount. And that volume discount is a mixture of your credit pool or your quantity in the credit pool that you're going to purchase and the term. Or in other words, it depends on the deal size. So it's not only how many credits you are buying, let's say 100 credits, it's also important how long, for how long. So if you buy them for 1 year, you maybe get, you don't get a volume discount, but maybe if you buy the credits, the 100 credits for a 5-year term, maybe you're eligible for the volume discount. And also sell the value. You have greater flexibility. You can, during that period where the credits are valid, you can come up with multiple use cases and just fulfill them in terms of adding a new deployment profile. Let's say you have a perimeter use case before subscription. You started with equivalent of a VM100, so 2 virtual CPUs and 6.5 gig of RAM. But during that period, your internet link was upgraded to have more bandwidth. And you also plan to add another subscription, which means you simply change your deployment profile, add more credits to the deployment profile, and you are done. You need to refresh the license on your firewall, that's for sure, but you don't go back to us and basically ask to find a commercial solution. Another important point is you can also scale down. If you decommission something, you give back your credit points to the pool and you can use them somewhere else. Or if the customer doesn't need anymore a certain subscription, you simply deactivate the subscription in the profile, do a refresh or fetch the license on the instance, the virtual instance, and you're done. So the model gives you really great flexibility and some sort of investment protection. So how does the process now look to get the right credits and activate them? Palo Alto created an online tool which is referenced on the right-hand side. You later on get the presentation, including the recorded video. So you can click on that link and you get forwarded to that online credit estimator. That credit estimator helps you to calculate or estimate the credits that you should purchase or the customer should purchase. So you have to select which type of firewalls you're going to use, so the VM series or the CN series, the number of firewalls you're planning to deploy, how many virtual CPUs you are expecting to use. And remember, those CPUs can be changed later on. It's just an estimation. And also the subscription you plan you plan to activate. Last but not least, you can use credits for the management part. So you can say, okay, I want those deployment sets or those firewalls, they should be managed via Panorama, and I want to use credits to license the Panorama. That's under step 5, so it is also possible. And last but not least, you have to decide which support type you want to use here. So either direct premium support or a backline support via partner-led option. Here I did an estimation, ended up with 60.78 credits. And yes, you cannot order it like that, of course. So I would round it up either to 61 or 62, and then basically come to us and make a screenshot of your estimation and send that as well to us. Why is that important? Because we, as a distributor, have to rebuild that in the Palo Alto quoting system, and we have to do it exactly the same way how the credit estimator works. So please don't come back to us and say, hey, Rolf, just offer 62 credits. It helps if you make a screenshot, send it to us along with the administrative contact of your end customer. That end customer contact is important to know because it is a license, it's just a subscription license. So an email will be sent out to that administrative contact asking him to activate the credit pool that he purchased. You see an example here on the left-hand side of an email that is Palo sending out to you or to the customer. In the email, you see what you have purchased. Here it is an NFR credit pool with 34 credits, starting in November and for 1 year long. If I press then on activate, I will be redirected to the customer support portal. So your credits will be deposited in your customer support portal. It's important that the customer has the right to really manage those credits. So it's an additional role in the customer support portal that you can enable to work with credits. After activation, you will find then your credits or your pool under assets, software next generation firewall credits. And you see here, my pool was activated and in the top of the screenshot with 34 credits. Some of them are allocated and that means I've created deployment profiles, and some of them are already used, which means it's really not only the deployment profile that was created, but also the VM instance was licensed with those credits. Below you see a quick overview of a deployment profile, and with the firewall, with the deployment profiles later on when you create it, you get authorization codes, which you then use to license your environment. I rush a little bit through the slides. You can later on have a look into that. We are running a little bit out of time, and I really want to make sure that Peter also has some time to present his slides. So the deployment profile, again, looks very similar to the credit estimator you used at the beginning. You now choose which type of firewall you're licensing, and then when you pick the VM series, you can choose between a fixed virtual CPU models that basically matches the older VM. So if you pick that one, you get the option to say, yes, I want to mimic a VM 300, or I want to have a similar setup like a VM 500. But typically you're going to use the second radio button and the 4 flexible virtual CPUs, which means you can really say, I want to license 6 virtual CPUs, and that does not need to match with the older, all the names or all the terms. Again, you define how many virtual CPUs you want to license, how many number of firewalls you need in that deployment, and what subscriptions you are planning to activate on that firewall. Another point I want to mention is you can transfer credits. First of all, if you have a pool and you run out of credits, of course, we can do a contract amendment, so you can increase your pool with additional credits. But also, if you purchased too much credits, it is possible to transfer them either within your same CSP account, so you can come up and create a new credit pool and transfer credits to that credit pool, or you can even go, just think of an MSSP approach and license a large amount of credits, and you can go and transfer credits to different customer support accounts and use them there to create deployment sets. So let's see, I just quickly want to share with you where you find that information all. Peter, can you please confirm that you see the support portal? Yes. Yeah, okay, perfect. So I'm logged in the customer support portal with the Ball Engineering account. Under assets, scroll down now to software next generation firewall credits. I see a dashboard at the top. You find all the documentation related to the credits, how you license, how to license them, how to register them. There are also videos available on the right-hand side, and you find again a credit estimator, but this time in the customer support portal. Below then you see my pool, and if you would have more pools than credit pools, they would all be listed here. Now I check the details or jump into the details. Here you see that I've created one deployment profile. I can use the more options now. I can go and edit my deployment profile. Basically say, yes, I need now Global Protect here, update the profile, and then the devices that are already licensed via those license or authorization codes just need to refetch the license, and you're good to go to configure now the additional subscription options. I can also deactivate a deployment, and then the credits are given back to the pool. I can transfer profile, and I can even register or provision a Panorama to manage my virtual instances. Everything what I do with the pool is recorded in an audit trail. I also have an overview of expired deployment profiles. I don't have one here. And just one last thing that I want to mention, and then I'm done. There is under software next generation firewall devices, I do see how many virtual instances I have configured and are licensed. So I do see here now the serial number, the authorization code that was given by the deployment profile that I've created before, what type of subscriptions are there. The same applies to the CN series and as well to the Panorama. You can provision as many Panorama as you would like, as long as you enabled in the deployment profile managed by Panorama. So that means you can really start with a single Panorama, and as your installation grow, you can basically build up a distributed Panorama environment with dedicated log collectors. So you're not limited by just one Panorama. You see, it's all from the same credit license pool. I can deploy as many Panorama as I wish. So I hope that gives you a little overview and a better understanding how flexible the credit licensing is. And with that, I really wanted to hand over to Peter. Sorry that I rushed through my slides, but feel free if you have questions, contact me directly or get in touch with the people in our Lausanne office. So Peter, I will.
Thank you very much, Rolf. Thank you very much before Christian for your valuable insights in the solutions. Now it's a little bit more administrative things. Partner compliance is a topic that is running during the whole year. The next check of partner compliance is end of July. And it's important to prepare early, because if you are missing a training, it's a little bit late to figure it out in the middle of July before the vacation season. Therefore, Palo Alto provides a new compliance tracker. You will receive that link. With that tracker, you can check the status of your company. And it will track the status that your company will have on the end of July, not the today status, because today you can be green because you have all the certifications, and maybe tomorrow one certification expires. So the tracker shows you the value that you will have on end of July. And we have new flexible requirements. Flexible means in the past we were just checked on bookings, how many revenue we had. Today it can be booking, or it can also be pipeline. It can as well be the trainings in the past, but today also Cyberforce level. So if you have some trainings and certifications, also some Cyberforce level could count. And the next flexible part is the NFR. You are required to have NFR boxes. New, the PA 400, 460 boxes are also in the minimum requirements. But also here, you can mix between the boxes, the devices, and experience points. And you find this requirements also on the table. And of course, in the partner portal, you see that always the actual requirements. If you use the tracker, you have to register there. Then you get an access to a website that looks a little bit like that. So you get a result. How does your company look like per end of July? In this case, innovator status is green, so revenue is okay, training is okay, certifications, NFR boxes, and the Cortex specialization is not completed. For it, and if you go one further, you see a little bit more details. It shows you not only that you fail or are successful, it shows you what is missed. In this case, bookings was expected over half a million, and you have booked 32,000. So you should do something. The training is not everything fulfilled. What do you have to do to fulfill the requirements? So check, use the tracker, see who is required, or what steps are required to keep the status. The status will be checked by end of July. So if someone is not fulfilling the requirements, the partner can be demoted, one level down or whatever. This is done once a year. And if you, for instance, have not enough revenue, not enough pipeline, and 3 months later you have it, then you can be promoted again. That is not waiting for the next year, so that can be done immediately. But better is prepare early, so you are always on the same level. Another point is delivery of hardware. We encounter, of course, this similar challenge like other vendors too. Semiconductors are not delivered on time. We have problems with the logistics. and therefore lead times for the products grew over the times. And therefore, please be careful about the lead times. On the next slide, we see a list of the lead times. For instance, most solutions have lead times of about 10 weeks and 13 weeks. And if you see a PA400 is in 10 weeks, but the rack mount kit and additional power supply is on 13 weeks. So that is being delivered together. And so we will receive this delivery as a provision in 13 weeks. Last but not least, we have to add about 2 weeks for the shipment, because these 10 weeks shown below, or 13 weeks, this is when Palo Alto gives it on the truck in the United States. And we have the challenge also to bring the product here to Europe, also Switzerland, as many of the flights were sometimes suspended. So add 2 weeks, sometimes even 3 weeks for a shipment. So be careful if you discuss it with the customers. We don't have a stock here in Switzerland. It's not possible for today. We are in discussion with Palo Alto on that, but today we don't have that stock. So therefore, we have to consider these lead times. Another reminder, there is a not for resale promotion. So if you have to invest or want to invest in NFR licenses, devices, the NFR promo is valid till end of January. Maybe it will come back in February till end of next year. We don't know it today. So these values are valid till end of January. Please don't come later than the 28th of January, because we have to fulfill the order before the 31st. An interesting promotion is on the way. It was already before. For customers purchasing PA400s and don't have a Panorama already, there is a promotion that they will get the Panorama at a lower price. So if the customer would like to have just, for instance, one PA410 and also as well a Panorama, so he and you will get 30% more discount on the license for a Panorama 25, and as well 30% more on the support. And on the right side, you see this is something new, started a few days ago. If the customer purchases as well an enterprise or pro subscription bundle, he gets even 50% on the Panorama on the support for it. So I think very interesting way for a customer to get Panorama. Other promotions that are going on and valid until end of July, the hardware refresh plus. So for customers who have older Palo Alto equipment, be it 3020, 3050, 5020, something like that, can upgrade to a similar solution like a 3220 or higher. And that gives very interesting prices. So please ask the customer or recommend as well customers with old devices to exchange them to be able to use the newest operating system, because on the older boxes there are limitations. There is a supercharge your business. There is additional discounts for customers and new customers choosing VM series, the CN series with the flexible credit, Rolf talked before, and the stack kit SD-WAN promotion on Prisma SD-WAN solutions as well. If you have there any projects, contact us and we can provide you with interesting offers. Last but not least, trainings is an important thing. We have set the date for the whole year. So if you are interested to attend a course, please let us know. And if you would like to attend a course that we have not yet set the date, so for 214, for instance, or 220, 260, please contact us and we can arrange a training. Please just call our friends in Romandy or here in Bettingen. So that was it in a short time. We hope we could deliver you some valuable information. Of course, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. We are here to help you. And if we can do something better, something different, or you are interested in another topic, please let us know so we can improve our sessions and we can deliver the content you would like to have. Was it too deep? Was it too much on the overview? Let us know. Otherwise, is there still any question, Rolf?
No, we don't get any questions so far. So I will then hand over to Daniele for some last words. Daniele.
Merci Peter, Rolf et aussi Christian et Nico pour votre aide, votre participation. J'aimerais remercier aussi les participants. On avait commencé, on n'était pas beaucoup, mais vous vous êtes repris. On est maintenant un petit peu plus nombreux. Je voulais vous communiquer une chose. Avec Edmond, on va nous permettre de vous contacter dans les prochains jours pour vérifier un petit peu ou avoir des feedbacks sur cette morning session, voir si le contenu était ce que Peter l'a demandé, comme Peter l'a dit, si c'était quelque chose qui était pour vous intéressant ou pas, si le format, ça vous va, voir quelles modifications on peut faire. On va vous appeler, on en discutera ouvertement et s'il faut changer quelque chose, on le fera. Merci à tous et à la prochaine.
Thank you very much and goodbye. Au revoir.
Goodbye. Thank you.